Afternoon, everyone. Hope you had a good lunch. So my name's Will Hensman. I'm a Geospatial Information Project Manager at the Improvement Service, and my colleague here is Esri UK, and he's the One Scotland Gazetteer custodian. So today we are going to talk to you about what the Improvement Service is, who we are, what we do, our remit. I'm going to be doing that bit, and then Yves is going to talk a wee bit about the One Scotland Gazetteer, what it is, how it can help you, and what its many uses. Then I'm going to talk about how we automated the process, so we have a fully automated end-to-end process for updating this, and then Yves is going to talk about using Esri technology and API interface. That's a new tool that's coming on. So I'm aware that we've got a mixed audience here, so some of you will know me. I've been in this industry for a long time, 25 years, I think, basically in local government, various jobs in councils and such like. So some of you may know some of this. Hopefully, some of you, it'll be new to some of you. We'll be announcing a new tool to give you access to Address Gazetteer and Street Gazetteer like never before. So Improvement Service, we are a not-for-profit organisation owned by the 32 local authorities, COSLA and Solace. We're about 17 years old and have about 100 staff. Two distinct units within the Improvement Service, so Digital Public Services, which is where Yves and I work, and the Transformation, Performance and Improvement team. So we're non-political, not-for-profit. We're purely about helping local authorities improve the delivery of service within local government. And we have a number of products and services. So some of these on here might be familiar with you. We have the Young Scot card. We have the Over 60s bus pass, Parents Pay, so if you pay for your school meals for your kids, the Data Hub, which is a free address matching software for all of the public sector, the Spatial Hub, which is our sort of flagship product, which is about taking local government geospatial data and mashing it together to create national data sets. And I've done many talks, I'm sure some of you have heard me talk about the Spatial Hub in the past. But obviously the one that we're going to talk about a wee bit more detail today is the One Scotland Gazetteer, and how you can use Address and Street Gazetteer integrated into Esri technology for the first time. So I'll hand over to Yves, who's going to talk about what the One Scotland Gazetteer is.
Thank you. Cheers, Will. Hi, everyone. I appreciate this is a post-lunch presentation. I'll try not kind of bore you to tears about it. But essentially, this should, in theory, be an easy pitch for myself. Being the custodian of the One Scotland Gazetteer, this is the Esri event, after all. So basically, what is the OSG? So the One Scotland Gazetteer is essentially, it holds information related to land, property, and street data. It can be thought of as a geographical index, a street register, an address register, or, you know, there's, I guess some people would call it a relational database, nothing to do with Tinder. It's basically every address within Scotland. It's spatially captured, so it's got X and Y coordinates using Ordnance Survey's national grid. So everything's effectively spatially enabled. Everything has a unique identifier. So for streets, we have a unique street reference number. For properties, we have unique property reference number, UPRN. That itself has been used for 2 decades now within local authorities. It's already working as a golden thread in terms of tying data together, helping kind of do low and high level analysis and sharing data between different services and databases. And also the UPRN lets us do things like value-added data, which is basically hanging information off of that UPRN. So we're basically effectively turbocharging data. With regards to the UPRN itself, effectively you kind of start at the land parcel stage. So in theory, you might want to look up ownership details, at which point you will go to planning, get approval, that is when the UPRN sparks into life. That follows it throughout the development phase, so towards building standards. Councils have the power for street name and numbering, they have the statutory powers to do that. That ties it all together. The UPRN will also help you tie in any third-party data, be it the postcode from Royal Mail. All the way up until property redevelopment, demolition, the UPRN basically follows that property throughout its life cycle. It does stop at demolition, so once a property is demolished, the UPRN is deprecated. It's never removed from the system, so I like to think that the UPRN is for life, not just for Christmas. In terms of key principles, essentially we collate 32 councils' gazetteers, and as you can probably imagine, trying to collate 32 of anything would relate to a bit of a mosaic in terms of what that final output is. So to get around that, we have standardized the data effectively. We have national conventions, and this is kind of baked in using people like the BSI, the British Standards Institute, where the conventions are effectively derived from. That's baked into the conventions. It's also written into some of the software. So as well, I'll kind of touch on, we have multiple software suppliers. Again, if you think across 32 local authorities, it's a bit of a mishmash. So our way of getting around that, as well as conventions and the standard, is online validation. So for that submission to get through to us, it basically has to pass through our nightly validation. And I've got a point there about continual improvement. What effectively that is, and your kind of key takeaway, is that over the last couple of decades, the Gazetteer has morphed and improved, and we've dialed the level of not just quality, but the information that the Gazetteer holds. So one example of that is property build state. Previously, we never used to have that, so if anyone's kind of looking to do a mail shot, you might want to strip out those things that are historic or on the construction. Or the inverse for that, if you're looking to do any type of analysis with regards to where is suddenly going to be a jump for request and service, you might want to say, well, show me what's under construction. Again, that's something we never used to have when the Gazetteers initially went live. We also have property levels. I'm sure post-Grenfell, everyone knows the importance of why we need to know what kind of level a UPRN is at. We also have classification, so as well as kind of being able to show on a map where it is, what level it's on, we're able to say, what is it? Is it commercial? Is it residential? Is it land? If it is, what type of land is it? You know, and something we did during the COVID lockdown was Sage used the OSG to basically derive location of care homes in a wonder. Yeah, where are all the care homes, where are so where are the GP surgeries? That was done, that information was derived from the OSG and held on the spatial hub behind the firewall. So that's just like an example of where we are, and that will continue, you know, at no point, and if there are any custodians in the audience, I'm sorry to say, at no point will there be a time where we'll say we're done. We'll always incrementally turn that dial and improve the quality. So, you know, we're always looking for feedback. We've got a wide range of customers, which I'll touch on, and I will pass back to Will.
So we've got 32 organisations who are all creating address gazetteers to a nationally agreed standard, which for a lot of data sets, we don't have that. So how do we get those 32 data sets are all supposed to be exactly the same into one place and then accessible by customers in a timely manner? So prior to the pandemic, most local authorities were updating their local address gazetteers to essentially to an improvement service, to the national centre, maybe once or twice a week, once every couple of weeks. The maximum number we had in 2020, so prior to the pandemic, was 146, which just happened to be Fulkert, which was Avez at that time. So he was our shining light in 2020 of data uploads to the improvement service.
I had a lot of spare time.
And, yeah. So yeah, prior to the pandemic, this is the upload, but obviously. What we wanted to do was to try and improve the situation. So like staff in so many organisations in the public sector, local authority address and street gazetteers were being asked to do more with less. There were a number of systems at the time, so there were 4 different systems that were in place, and management systems. So what we needed to do was to work out a way of pulling all of this information together in an automated fashion, in a timely fashion. So one of the issues was that there was inconsistent update cycles by local authorities. So data was often out of date between local authorities. One might be updating it once a month, one might be updating it once a week. The inconsistent update cycles were also meant that it was out of date. So local authorities were struggling to keep up with the date. So there was pressure from users, that was it. There were pressures from users for up-to-date information that in a timely manner. So the customers needed data like almost within sort of weekly or monthly. There were contractual obligations to provide this to Ordnance Survey and other partners. So all in all, it was a bit of a mixed bag in terms of how up-to-date the data was and how accurate the data was. So what we decided to do was essentially put into place an automated process. So we developed 3 different automated upload process for all the local authorities and trunk roads authorities. So the process that we've got now, it's taken 4 years or so we started just before the pandemic, to get all the local authorities on board and updating. So we now have an automated daily update process of every local authority's and road authority street gazetteer. So what that means is that generally the data is no more than 24 hours old. Essentially what happens is that at the end of every day, any changes that local authorities have made gets automatically uploaded to the improvement service. We run over 600 data validation checks, and then overnight, that's done overnight. So in the morning, the data is published as API. So we have a public access via the One Scotland Gazetteer website, and we have downloads, we have APIs, we have commercial offering, as I said, through address space. So the data can be consumed by all the partners, by yourselves, if you're users of address gazetteer data or address space. And for every local authority, it's never more than 24 hours old. So what we have now is, and this in 2023 was the result. So the black line across there was Falkirk's fantastic 146 uploads during 2020. Now what we have is more than 3/4 of all local authorities have surpassed that total. We have the highest one being Murray, which is 280 uploads, which actually is more than one upload every single weekday of the year. Go figure. Kevin's not here, so I can't ask him why that is. But anyway, so 280 is the maximum, but as you can see, there's the rate of which updates are getting is most of them are more than 52, which is obviously one a week, and most of them are way above that. So what we've moved is from a manual process once a week to essentially a daily upload process. And Viz is now going to talk about the next iteration of this, which is using Esri technology with an API.
Thank you, Will. And when I say that, I mean that genuinely. Thank you, Will. If I can just go back a second first. So was that the benchmark?
What's that?
Is that I was a benchmark? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. So essentially, and publicly, thank you to Will Hensman for this project, because I'm a direct beneficiary of that project. As you can see, the benchmark there was just below 150. Most councils are punching above that. So one of the key selling points and thing that is easy for me to pitch with regards to why should you use OSG is the submission rate. Again, 32 times tied into a national set of convention, and it's coming through pretty much daily. So yeah. Thank you. So in terms of where we are, osg.scot is our public-facing website. Feel free to look up your own address on there. It's used by members of the public, Amazon delivery drivers. We get kind of queries every single day, basically. With regards to the API, pretty much every given month, you're looking at a six-figure number of hits on it. So it's already up and running. It's using Anger by a whole host of consumers of that data. The kind of ringing endorsement is obviously the emergency services. You've got, Police Scotland, etc. We've got NRS. We've got multiple strands of the Scottish Government, multiple projects using that. You're probably unaware of this, but the last census used the OSG, so you've kind of been a direct beneficiary of this project. So the UPRN underpinned that project. It was a very big project. NRS kind of spent a lot of time pre and afterwards. They're already working on the next census. One thing with relation to Will's project with regard to that 24-hour turnaround was an example where we had one of the emergency services pointing out a property. They said, this is incorrect classification, you've got it in as commercial, it actually turns out it's a residence. I triaged that query straight away to the local council, who jumped on it within the hour. I got a notification back saying we've updated it. The following morning, that person originally pointed out said, I've ignored yesterday's email. I looked at it, it's right. I'm like, no, you're right, it was wrong. And they're like, so did you get that changed? I'm like, yeah, 24 hours. And so that's the thing, that's one of the main selling points. If you spot anything wrong with the data, the turnaround speed in that is, they'll miss one email and it's basically done for you. It's one of the, again, the key selling points. And joining this ever-growing list of customers now, I'm happy to announce, and drum roll, is now Esri. So as of today, the OSG API is available as part of the the Esri connectors. suite. I have tested it. I know Nikita and his colleague will be kind of doing a demo, but to me, being me, I wanted to go in and check, does it work? Can we find where we are? The answer is yes. So again, you've got all the addresses in Scotland at your fingertips with a 24-hour turnaround. And essentially what we are saying is it's available for everyone who's currently a PSGA member. The chances are your organisation is probably a member, which means you probably already have access. If you don't, you can grab me whenever or speak to Roddy or Murray at Esri. We can get you set up with an account. And effectively, the ask is use it, test it. You know, the good thing of having worked with Esri on this, Esri are very forward-thinking, like the improvement service. So this has actually been a very easy thing to kind of put together with the, people like Peter. No limits have been set on either side with regards to how this is used. You know, access it, test it, you know, see what you think the limitations are. If there's anything that you think that we could add to it, as we've kind of demonstrated earlier, it's a rolling kind of set of options for the Gazetteer in terms of what we can add to it. So the sky's the limit with regards to further development. You know, as I said at the start, it's been very easy to work with Esri on this. So again, if you've got any feedback, come back to Will or myself, or speak to your Esri account manager, but definitely come back to us on that. Do the wrap-up.
Cool. Right, so just to wrap up, improvement services. Service for everyone, if you're working, whether you're working in local government or public or professional life, improvement service provides a whole range of services which hopefully you can take advantage of. The One Scotland Gazetteer, as Yves has outlined, using data for better decision making. 24-hour turnaround time, thanks to the wonderful work that all the local authority Gazetteer custodians do. We've got a process of automating the system so it's quick and easy to access. We provide APIs, we provide a website, we provide downloads. And as Yves has just announced, a brand new Esri OSG API, which we would like you to test, use, and provide feedback. And that is everything from us. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the improvement service. I think we all appreciate the fact that everything we do is driven by data. If we don't have good data, we can't do our jobs. So their work is really essential to us. But they've touched on the locators, and let's have a little chat about them. We'll cover what locators are, what reasoning you might have for creating your own, how you'd connect to existing ones, how you'd create a custom locator, and also where you could get other ones. Now, to begin with, a locator is a portable file for performing geocoding across the ArcGIS platform. What does that mean, really? Well, let's think about this as an example about the ArcGIS World Geocoding Service. It is something available to you by default across the entirety of the ArcGIS platform, and this is the thing that will search for addresses when you use the search bar if you haven't configured it to be otherwise. This is the thing that will search for your addresses in your CSV table that when you're geocoding it for your addresses. And, you know, it's available across all of ArcGIS. It's hosted and maintained by Esri, but it's not the only thing that's out there. And for today, we'll be using the example of the One Scotland Gazetteer, which is, of course, provided by the improvement service. It is free under the PSGA for PSGA customers. And you could argue that it's probably the most comprehensive locator for Scotland. So you've got reasons to think about using different locators depending on what you're after. Now, when it comes to creating your own locator, I'm sure the first thought that goes through your mind would be a custom locator? Haven't Esri already located everything? And I'm sure this will echo another conversation all of you will have probably had, which is, you do maps? Haven't Google already mapped everything? To which the answer is always, well, yes, but not everything. And so when you create your own locator, first of all, you have the most up-to-date information. This information could be coming from a council, this could be coming from a construction company, this could be coming from within your own company as well. But what it will not be coming from is other traditional sources of addressing and location because it's not there just yet, it hasn't been updated. You can also make them include more languages, more names. You know, the Gaelic, the Welsh, they're quite typical languages that are often omitted in locators where the local population will probably use the native name for a location. But also, you've got local names. The road that leads to my village where I live is known as the A70. It is known as Lanark Road. It is also known as the Lang Wang by 2 villages and no more. This is not a name that will come up in any locator. This is not a name that will come up in much far outside of where I live, but it is a name by which a lot of residents will refer to a very specific piece of road that connects 2 villages. And it's important to know that if you're doing any sort of work in that area. But also, a locator of your own making is more than just an address. Now, first of all, you can make it return custom fields in that you can add in information. You can have it come up with the address, but you can also have it come up with an asset number. You can have it come up with any information to do with what's nearby. How far is it to a specific other point within an area of interest? Is it likely to be affected by flooding? All of that can come up in just your single locator. But also, you could have just your own assets, exclusively your own assets. And this becomes important because when you reduce the data, you reduce the locator size. When you reduce the locator size, first of all, it becomes easier to take offline and work on mobile applications, but also it just works a lot faster. So let's take a look at how this works in practice. What you see here is a search in my ArcGIS Online organization, and here are the locators. These are the locators that are available to me. They are also available to you, and you can see that they are just items in your portal. This isn't anything special, radical, hidden away, or anything like that. And you can make an add, you can do whatever you like to those locators. And let's take a look at how they work. Now, if I were to start a search and click this down button, I have a number of locators available to me. You're likely to have fewer, but the standard one you will definitely have is the World Geocoding Service. And if I were to start typing into the World Geocoding Service Perth, what it'll do is suggest Peru or Perth, Western Australia, which isn't quite where we are, but also a lot of other names that are not relevant generally to the UK. So what you can do is just create a view. Now our administrators have created this World Geocoder view that is only going to return UK addresses. So if I continue typing Perth, you can see suddenly it comes up with Perth in Scotland, and only that. Well, apart from the Perthy in England. But what you will also be able to do is you'll be able to keep typing, let's say, Perth Concert Hall. You can see that that's coming up, and if I click on it, it takes me right to the concert hall, and it puts a point where we are. That's excellent. That's what you would expect to do, a locator to do. Now, if I were to change this locator, and if I were to change this to the One Scotland Gazetteer and search again, just give me one moment, search again in the One Scotland Gazetteer, what it'll do is it'll place a button, point on the map that is ever so slightly different to where it should be. Well, to where the previous point was. You can see that this point now is in the middle of the concert hall rather than on the road. And there is a very good reason for this. One Scotland Gazetteer provides you with the exact location of the address that you're looking for. The World Geocoding Service, however, is actually optimized for use with networks and to build routes. So therefore, it will snap an address point to a network. So therefore, even though technically we haven't even started going into the depths of creating our own locators, we can already see how 2 locators can give you ever so slightly different results based on the use case that you might be having. Now, if you were to build your own locator, let's imagine you are a utilities company. And as a utilities company, you may be maintaining a lot of equipment out there on the street, junction boxes, all sorts, that don't necessarily even have an address. They're outside something, but they don't have a specific address that you could relate them to. How would you do that? What would you do? Well, to begin with, we can start building our data sets using something like, in our case, LandClan datasets. We'll be using the LandClan dataset because it's convenient, it's excellent. We have over 500 different attributes within this dataset about a lot of points. But If we look at the layers, we've got land parcels and a long list of other attribution that we might be after. In this case, let's take a look at the planning applications that we might be interested in, because here we have housing applications in Perth. What this will give me is it'll give me an idea of the load that will be coming up, increasing on our networks, on our infrastructure. I can zoom in and find out a little bit more accurately. But to bring all of this powerful information into Locator and make it work, I'm going to pass you over to Curtis.
Perfect. Thank you, Nikita. So, following on from Nikita's imagination of a telecoms company in Perth, wanting to see their assets on a map and then potentially use locators to find them, I'm going to give a quick demo. So here in ArcGIS Pro, you see some dots on a map, which don't really show much, but what they each represent is a telecoms box. Now, for any locals or telecoms box enthusiasts out there, these aren't actually real. They're all made up, so don't be looking for them on your way home. But for each one, we have some basic information, so a type, a box number, and when it was created. Now, if I was a telecoms company and wanted to, say, for example, see new future load issues, so looking at housing applications, I can add this data in from LandClan. And this is all of the planning applications around Perth at the moment. It's a lot of dots on a map. It doesn't really make much sense. But if I filter it down to just housing applications, I get a little bit more. There's a little bit more. There's quite a bit around the city centre, a bit around the side, not much. But still, I don't know where, perhaps there are, new developments, what could possibly have a lot more, put a lot more strain on our existing network. But with the magic of a little bit of GIS, I can attach this data with the land parcels. And just as that loads up in the background, what we'll get is some polygons on the map, which are going to show the darker colors, representing those with a lot more housing applications in a small area. And immediately, we get a much better picture. So you've got this area up here, a brand new housing area. You've got some over here. But I'm going to keep an eye on this area around here. So a lot of land parcels with a lot of housing applications available. Now, if I wanted to send a field engineer out, they'd potentially want to inspect this box on the Glasgow road, just to make sure that it is up to scratch and whether it's ready for such an increase in houses around the area. But if I sent out an engineer and told him, yeah, it's a box, it's just about there, under the G on Glasgow Road, they're not going to find it very easily. And if you told them to search for, if I click on it, box number 12399, if they type that into Google Maps, it's not going to come up with anything useful. So this is where we can build our own feature locator. And it's really, really simple. So in the geoprocessing pane, I can just type in feature locator. And what I'll get is create feature locator, like so. And for our input features, we want to select boxes. For our field name, we will select box number. And we're going to just give it a little bit of a snazzier name, so I'm going to just remove the create feature here. What we'll get is boxes locator. Hit run. I'm doing this live on stage just to show that it should work, like so. And if I zoom back out, and whilst that's running, I'll get ready. When we want to actually find it, just to test it before we send it out to a mobile use, I'm going to hit locate and scroll down here. We've got all a list of the existing locators I have with Esri UK, including the One Scotland Gazetteer. And you can see our new boxes locator has loaded. And I've unselected the rest just so we can just get the boxes locator. And if I type 12399, you can see it was suggested. Select it there, I'll hit enter. There we go, right in. Perfect. But it's not, your field engineer is not going to be accessing it through ArcGIS Pro. It's a little bit overkill. So we can use something like field maps. And to do that, even with the the field worker doesn't even need a license, we can build a mobile map package so they can access it, view all these points, and then be able to locate anything. So we head back to our geoprocessing pane to do that. And I'm going to type in mobile map package, create mobile map package. I'm going to use our map again. I'm going to give it a nice name, so Perth boxes. Make sure our input locator is included, so that it'll appear, so boxes locator. We can add things like an area of interest, so we just add the area, but I'm going to ignore all that for now. But what I'm going to do is make sure that I've enabled anonymous use, so that any user, when they don't need their own named user license to access it, and make sure I reference online content to make sure that the base maps, etc., load. I'll hit run, but I'll avoid that for now. And then I'm going to switch over. Once that's created, you upload it into ArcGIS Online and go into the Field Maps app or web map, and then you can generate either a link or a QR code for where you can then access it through the Field Maps app, where I'm going to go to now. So if I hit this, I'll hopefully retry, should get a connection. There we go. So, smooth as that, we're into the Field Maps app. We can see our same map as we had before, so we have all of our points. It's a little bit overwhelming for an engineer. You've called them and you said, we want to go to box 12399 and check it out. So all they have to do is hit search item at the top, type in 123. You can see our locator's already loaded. There we go. Oh, it's 2.5 kilometers away. Could almost walk it, but we'll take the van. So I'll select that. And then I've got a choice of direction. So I can either use ArcGIS Navigator, because it's installed on my device, but any other navigation device, such as Apple or Google Maps, which you may have on your phone. And there we have it. And with that, I'll hand back to Nikita.
Thank you very much. So yeah, we now know what locators are. We know how to build our own. And if we wanted to get started, we've got a few options, because to start with, we've got the World Geocoding Service. We also have the British National Grid Locator, gives you eastings and northings coordinates to search through. We can also use open OS locators, like the postcode locators and the open names. But we can push it further, because we also have the OS Places API. We also have the OS address-based locators that are incredibly detailed. But then also we have other locators like the One Scotland Gazetteer. And really we have a lot more. So you can get in touch with us for more. Thank you very much.